But what do you say? Are we ready to start? It is 6 o'clock, at least in Sweden, where I stand, and say a warm welcome to upTech at Softhouse, or as I just said, upTech in Skånska. Now we're opening this hour, and it would be so nice if you can. I don't want to push it too hard, but if you can, just switch on your camera. And if you, during this hour, want to be interactive, thank you so much. That will bring a lot of energy to us when traveling together during this session. So my name is Sarah Mortensson, Sarah, and I will be the host or the conferencier of this first upTech of Softhouse. And it is my pleasure to open up this talk, and it is again so nice to see all of you here. And I will start with handing over to my great colleague, Olof Bengtsson. Olof, welcome.
Thanks. Let me see. I'm trying to share my my presentation here. I hope you all can see that. Let's see. Can you all hear me as well, maybe? Excellent. Okay. So I'm going to give you a short introduction to AI here at Softhouse, and welcome to everyone here. It's so great to see all of you. I think it's going to be a great hour together here. Okay, let's start. Who are we? We are Softhouse has put some power into expanding their AI competence in the last year with some extra emphasis since 2001, so a little bit more than 2 years ago. And I've been a part of that as well, which I think is great. And here to the in the image, you can see pictures from a few of the people that we have in our competence area AI. And this is only a few of them. I would have needed at least one more slide to fit us all. And since we are a vast group of people, we have varying experience and competence, which is really great. We have some people who have done natural language processing, some anomaly detection, biometrics, but also classification tasks and pure data science. But not everyone have done these kind of projects, but are only part of this because they have pure interest in AI. And this versatility is the greatest thing, I think, because we can all share knowledge and learn from one another, which is something that we really like to do. And I think that's really, really great. So what do we think about AI? And so it's for us, it's so much more than I put only in citation marks here, because it's not that only very advanced, but only using ChatGPT and these new large language models, which are very capable and have a general understanding. But there's also task-specific AI, which, as the name suggests, has been trained to do a specific task instead of doing these general tasks like these large language models are doing. And the examples of this could be anomaly detection. So if you try to say if something is wrong somewhere, you do some kind of classification, which could be to split data points into different classes to say if something is good or bad, for example. It could also be image analysis, where an AI has been trained to analyze an image based on a specific task. And we know how to build these kind of AI tools from scratch and not use these ready-made tools. So I'm going to run you through a few examples of our customers and what we have done and our collaborations. And the first one is actually on image analysis, and it's with a company called Precise Biometrics. which we have collaborated here in Lund. And they are they provide biometric security systems. So, for example, if you want to unlock a door and you don't want to use a key or a tag because you feel like that's old news by now, maybe, then you can hire Precise Biometrics to install a system where you can unlock the door with your fingerprint or your face. So it's fingerprint and face recognition, among other things. And we have helped them developing their spoof detection tool. And spoof detection is the ability to see if something is real or not. I think it's also called liveliness detection. And that could be if someone has taken a photograph of my thumb. We don't want them to be able to access my things, of course. So that tool is able to detect if it's actually my thumb or if it's simply an image of my thumb. So that has been a really great collaboration that we have done together with them. Next, I'm going to take you a bit further from this area. It's actually the energy sector, where quite recently we did a very interesting project together with Kraftringen, and also in Lund, actually. I guess some of you know, at least our local listeners from the south of Sweden know what Kraftringen is, but they're for the rest of you, they are an energy company. So they provide electricity and they deliver electricity mostly to customers here in the south of Sweden where we live. And they have set out to go on a mission to try to reduce their customers' electricity bills, which I think is great because we're moving to a society where we're going to depend much more on electricity. And at least I think that the electricity bill is only getting higher and higher. So this is a very welcome addition to my everyday. And the way that they felt that they could do this was that they wanted to see if by looking at the energy usage of their customers, that they could see if that customers had a resource that demanded very much energy. And this could, for example, be an electrical vehicle, or it could be a heat pump, which both require a lot of electricity. And then by identifying these, Kraftringen had an idea that they would help their customers to optimize how they use those resources in order to get the same end result, but to a lower cost, which I think is really, really interesting. And we helped to see if it was able to classify these resources by looking at the power energy usage. And it turned out that it was possible, which was a really fun project, actually. And staying on this topic, the energy sector, we're going to take a step slightly outside of this and move over to a company that's called D-Lab. And they don't, D-Lab don't provide electricity to people, but they instead have the providers as their customers. So Kraftringen is actually D-Lab's customer. And they monitor the electrical grid, and they can detect events that happen in power stations and on power lines, and then they have the ability to analyze these events and see what went wrong, what kind of event was this, and then extract information on how these companies what they should do to prevent these kinds of things in the future and help them understand what is actually happening. And along with Kraftringen, they also have Bjärrekraft and Telgenet as their customers. And I think our local listeners might recognize them, but they are also these electrical providers for customers here in Sweden. So what did D-Lab want help with? Well, they saw that there was a lot to gain if there would never be any power outages, which I think you can all agree on. It's not great when we don't have electricity. So they wanted to be able to predict if there was going to be a power outage, so that they could schedule maintenance and that way, of course, save money, but also to create a better working environment for the electricians and the technicians that otherwise would have been on site to try to fix these problems as they happened. So to make a long story short, they wanted to predict if there was going to be an outage, and that could be due to faulty components in the station. So that was what we tried to help them out with, and we actually came to some very promising results there as well. So I have to say that was a very interesting project as well. And in the beginning, I said that we don't only use these kind of these large language models, but of course they are the newest thing on the market. So we try and we feel like we need to keep up to date with the newest technology in order to be able to provide the best services. So we have also done a few projects where we have leveraged these ready-made solutions, such as the ChatGPT or the OpenAI APIs. And Whisper, etc., which are more off-the-shelf products. And we have used them to make some really interesting projects. For example, we had a summer intern project where they used the predecessor to ChatGPT to analyze political tweets and classifying the topic and sentiment analysis to get an idea of how the Swedish party leaders behaved on Twitter just before the election. And those insights were really interesting to see, actually, which was really rewarding. And we have also done a project where we created a chatbot for our own internal documents within Softhouse, so that you, for example, could ask, how many vacation days do I have in a year? And then that would provide you with the answer. So I hope that this has given you somewhat of a glimpse into what Softhouse is and what we are doing with AI. So this was actually all I wanted to talk about for now.
Thank you so much, superstar Olof. And then one might think that, okay, so we have been doing this for 2 years, you said 2021, but Softhouse has been around for almost 30 years, actually started in 1996. And I was about to get very happy because I saw a raised hand, but maybe someone just applauded you, Olof. I can understand that. If any questions, please just raise your hand, and we're so happy to answer them right away, whenever. And I know that also our next speaker that I soon will present, Linus Ekenstam, also prefers it that way. Just fire away when you have a question. But briefly, Softhouse, Olof, AI, we do that, and that is part of our software professionals. Since 1996, we code the future. I hope that you can see me. I have my nice sweater on. Yeah, we code the future. We also accelerate other businesses. We do have a portfolio that we invest in, helping other, often not startups, but in the beginning phase of their businesses to help them accelerate. And we do beautiful experiences, and we do that via Milieu. That is our full service design bureau. We do that often at the same time. So that is what we do and who we are. And talking about that, we are many people here. Again, so good to see you. If you want to interact, it would be nice just to see where are you right now. If you want to write that in the chat, that would be just, it's always fun to see where are we, and all of our participants. Malmö, Barcelona, yes, rub it in, Linus Ekenstam. And here you also can see our 11 offices from Luleå up in the north to actually Sarajevo that you find here on the map also, in the very southern part of this in this map. And then you can see all the different offices. But don't know how to rub it in any further. But now it's time to travel to our next superstar that will continue and be the main presenter in this session. And that is live from Barcelona. Linus, take it away.
Thank you so much for showing up today. This evening, I thought we should talk a little bit about the possibilities of AI. I think we are living through one of the most important times of modern society. The types of innovation that has come out of AI and that will continue to come out of AI is nothing short of science fiction. For example, what you are seeing now is not real. I'm fake. I'm just a digital representation of Linus, a mere digital mirror image of him. I was made using a very simple software called HeyGen. You can do it yourself, either manually or programmatically via their API. This opens up a lot of different opportunities and possibilities that was not possible just 1 year ago. You can imagine how one-to-one marketing and communication between brands and customers will completely be turned upside down. If you think using first name in an email was powerful, wait until you start sending out short 30-second clips to your customers with personalized messages from the founder of a brand. Priceless.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't obvious. That was not me, but here I am. That's something that we can do with AI. It's like one of the things that we can do. And there's so much stuff that we can do with AI that it almost becomes so difficult to keep up because there's so much stuff happening every single day. And we heard the intro from Olaf with, what's applied AI and very handpicked and specific things. Let's just recap and look at me a bit. I just want to give you my kind of story. So this is me and my sister, Emma. I grew up in Sweden in a very safe neighborhood, in a very suburban place with plastic floors and really ugly wallpapers. And my family took us traveling a lot. I never got to have tech at home. So instead I got to see a lot of places, and my mom was adamant that we were like going on vacations basically as soon as we could. I also wear really bad fashion, as you can see here. Sorry, I'm just going to show you the slides again. So here, sorry for that. Super horrible, by the way, my mom and the fashion statements she poured on me. And I think this was the time where things started to go crazy. Somewhere in Asia, presumably Thailand or maybe Vietnam. And I got this really fake Hugo Boss outfit and tube socks. And at this point, I think this is where my love for technology kind of just started. And if you're anything like me, you had everything. Yeah, you had Tamagotchis, I got the Furbies. I got the Game Boy Color as soon as it came out, and I had the original Game Boy as well. I was constantly kind of fiddling with tech, and I made my own money from a very early age, and I kind of used that money to buy gadgets. And at some point it slowed down a bit, but then other cool things started to pop up. So I started to buy more crazy gadgets. And that's kind of been my journey. I've always been an early adopter with most things. I did try to get the hoverboard, but unfortunately it's not working yet. But as soon as kind of the AI kind of thing started to take over, I had already had friends that had been building things with AI tool and machine learning tools for quite some time. I got kind of tainted by that, and I started to tinker a bit with my own things. And I was like, okay, this is actually a field that's absolutely crazy. I'm learning so much stuff every single day, and if I'm not going to share this with the world, then I'm going to miss an opportunity. So that's basically how my kind of journey into these modern day AI tools started. And that has led me to some interesting positions. I get to talk a lot about AI. I've grown quite a large followership online, and I tweet a lot or post a lot on X these days about AI. I also try to do a bit of video and public speaking. So it's really been a fun journey for me. And to like show you like something that I've built. It's this kind of bedtimestory.ai, which is leveraging a bunch of the applied tools that are out there to kind of like weave things together to build a cohesive platform or story maker, basically. And this is for kids. So it's been a fun journey, kind of like showing that I'm also using these tools to build. I'm not just talking about them. So I'm actually very well adversed in that space. So let's just rewind a bit. So like, if we look at history, there's been a few paramount situations in society when things have really kind of like kicked off a second gear and things have grown exponentially. So we can reverse really far back, we can see kind of the wheel. And somewhere then we have the Industrial Revolution and presumably electricity. And these are kind of major things that have had huge impact on society, albeit relatively slow. Like it's not like because we had the Industrial Revolution overnight, 100 million people were starting to see the benefits of it. It was quite a slow ramp up, but then all of a sudden, we had mass production. This time around, it's slightly different. Because we are so connected and we're such a global society, we're kind of sitting in a position that when something as big as machine learning and artificial intelligence kind of comes over us like it's doing right now and we're kind of living through, we kind of end up seeing the negatives of being so interconnected, because everything is growing so extremely fast that we're seeing kind of the fastest adoption curve in human history of technology that is not niche or specific. This is not technology that only works if you're a doctor or only works if you're an engineer. This is kind of super broad, super horizontal technology that affects pretty much every known knowledge worker or knowledge work that we have today as a society. So it puts us in an interesting position where we've never kind of seen anything like this before. And when we look at history and we look at these things, we see that the type of effect that they've had, and we can look in retrospect and we can see historically that, it led to really good outcomes, even though in the short term it led to some kind of like impact on specific jobs or specific things. But this time around, it's really difficult to kind of even comprehend what will happen because of the change being so rapid and omnipresent. I'm kind of not worried about where things are going. Quite the opposite. I'm super excited. I'm kind of pro all of this, pro the acceleration that's taking place. So we're going to look into some of the things that's possible with AI today. And we're going to start with looking at generative AI. And I'm putting this label in front of pretty much anything that is around generative. So it could be large language models, it could be video or photo. And I'm going to try to take you down a little journey on kind of what is happening right now and what is possible at this very moment. There's going to be some videos and there's going to be me talking over some stuff, and hopefully it's going to work out. So we think about it. Generative AI is kind of like encompassing any medium that came before where we are today. So anything that we can do with current tools, we're now able to do with AI. And also AI, the term is kind of like something that we throw around quite loosely, but it's machine learning, like it's the foundation of what we're talking about. And artificial intelligence is kind of like a subset of machine learning. And it's easy to throw around just like a buzzword, but it's easy because then we know what we're talking about. So for the case of this, like I'm going to say generative AI, and I mean kind of anything that's generative. So if we look at something simple as photos, we basically have like endless tools, right? Like I'm not going to go super specific on exactly what tools are out there, but this, for example, is Midjourney. And there are others, Adobe is there, and we have Stable Diffusion, which is another tool that's open, like more kind of like coming from the open source world. And what's interesting is like all of this is building on technology that's not more than a few years old. Like if we look at diffusion, it was invented in 2016. It's building upon other machine learning algorithms that came before it. But the fact that we've gone from like just a year ago generating quite like blobs to today being able to generate photorealistic stuff, everything from like portraits, kind of replacing model work to, things or world building. And we're kind of just seeing the very start of this. And we're actually at the point now where the things are moving so fast that if I showed you the progression in just 600 days, it would be like going from something that's unrecognizable to something that's looking a bit more like this, where like, how is this even possible? How can we tell the machine just using words and get something like this generated for us, like in a second, in 2 seconds, in 5 seconds, right? Like it's just on demand everywhere. It's just going to flip everything upside down. And it's not just like fashion that's going to go get crazy. You know, we can see stuff like interior, where there's currently quite a high threshold in getting into, you know, learning 3D or doing rendering, where, you know, look at IKEA, for example. They've done staged environments for a good few years now. But that takes a lot of energy and a lot of time. And now these tools are getting like to everyone, to people that are just like me, not having any skills in 3D, and I can sit and I can dream up these spaces. And it's not just like that it has applied use cases for businesses. It's also fun. Like you can all of a sudden become, you can have expression for your art or your ideas without really even being able to put pen to paper. And I think that's something that we haven't had before. Like a lot of these things have been very gated, and it's been only a select few people that have had the keys to access and then be part of this kind of world. And like now I can do things like, oh, I want to create this, or I want to do that, or I have an idea for a new vehicle. I want to make like a super nice, you know, space kind of car. And I can get that idea out and I can share it with other people that are skilled and that can help take my idea and make it better. And this is super powerful. And I see every day how people are, you know, getting empowered, and they're augmenting their own abilities, and they're being able to just do so many crazy things. And I think the list just goes on. You can see, like, can imagine how kind of every fashion brand from like here to the end of the world, they're just going to leverage this tech to build cool things. Like the virtual tryout room that we thought would be like AR driven is probably not going to be that. It's probably going to be something very different, where, you know, instead of me looking at a piece of clothing, I'm going to be able to kind of generate myself in those images and see, you know, how am I going to look at this? How am I going to look at that? And this is also a very super simple use case, but very powerful. And in cinematography, it's even more kind of reducing labor, because like you can have art directors and people that are producing things. Not just can they kind of sketch out their ideas and kind of do all the storyboarding and get a visual for what they're trying to do with very little work, instead of like depending on these long pipelines. They can start doing work themselves, and this is just going to completely change how producers work and art directors work. And interior design is the same. You just see it everywhere. And there's one really fun experiment with a company a few months back where they had this kind of workshop, and we're trying to kind of figure out, like, how can we do, you know, 1,000 different inflatables in one session. We sit down, we're like 5 designers, and we try to dream up, like, you know, 1,000 designs for inflatable furniture. And no other tool they've ever kind of used would allow to do this. And I think that just showcases how powerful generative AI can be. And I think this was, in the end, what they chose to go with. So I don't know if I would sit in this. It feels like it would squeak, but then again, quite fun. And lastly, like, I think stock photography is just going to be so ripe for disruption. I think if we look at it from a marketing perspective, I think we've all kind of been looking for stock images at some point, and it just feels like we don't need that anymore. I can now just go and see, like, I want this thing, and I can get that generated, and it can be specifically generated for me in my use case. Super powerful as well. And obviously, like, that's just photos. If we look at like what's possible with video, we're just taking this to a whole other step, right? Like with the kind of same principles that we have as with photos, we can see that, oh, this is not playing. That's a shame. Let's see if I can get it to play. No. Okay. Right. Let's go to the next one instead. This playing? No. Okay, here we go. This was playing. Come on, please. Work with me. No. All right, that's a shame. I really wanted to show these, but it's the same. It's like text to video is such a powerful thing where you can query using natural language, and it doesn't matter what type of a vibe you're going for or what type of thing you're trying to build. It's all there and it's all doable, just like super simple. Here we can see like a simple shoe ad done by Nicholas here. And the fact that we can churn these out programmatically just changes the landscape completely. And we can do them in any kind of orientation or any kind of way that we want to try to experiment with this stuff. Let's see if we have some better luck with audio. So audio is an interesting one because you obviously know that deepfakes is a big thing. But if we look beyond deepfakes and we look at the core technology, it's like you saw the intro there. It's like the fake version of me. It's basically a deepfake of me. It's like I've uploaded a bit of video and it synthesized that video and it cloned my voice and also cloned my face. And it has a bit of an issue because I have a beard, but it works really well if you provide it with good enough raw material. And like a year ago, this would take like your own GPU and you would have to like have really good knowledge about how to fine tune these things. And now it's like a website. You go there, you drop a file, 2 minutes of video, and you wait a bit. And then all of a sudden you can just create infinite amounts of video. And we're kind of seeing the same stuff happening with audio, where we're kind of look at audio as like omnipresent around anything that's audio. So like could be podcasts, it could be books, it could be music. And I think if we look at music, that's where it's getting interesting. So let's see if we have.
Hello, I'm not Johnny Cash. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world. Life in plastic, it's fantastic. You can brush my hair, undress me everywhere. Oh, come on, Barbie, let's go party, because I'm in a Barbie world.
All right, I'm not sure if you did you hear the audio? Can I get some reactions if there were people who heard the audio? Yeah, okay, great. So obviously this is quite funny. This is quite funny. Now, kind of like any music that you ever heard, we're entering this era where we can. I don't think it's far-fetched to believe that like Spotify soon will have kind of an option where if you hear a song, you have a song that you like, but you want to hear it sung or made by someone else, you're just going to be able to go, hey, I want to have this like JC song, but I want to have it by Madonna. Like I have this, even dead artists that are not around anymore, like you want them to do new music or new covers, you go like, oh yeah, maybe Michael Jackson could sing this, or in this case Johnny Cash. Or I have another example. Let's see if we can run that as well. So Frank Sinatra sings Get Lucky. Let's see what.
Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. Old Blue Eyes here with a twist on a tool you may know. You see, we're dusting off our top hats, shining our dancing shoes, and we're taking a little trip on the sands to St. Tropez. So sit back, relax, and let's get lucky. Sinatra style. Like the legend of the Phoenix, outlandish with beginning. Get the planet spinning.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a bit gimmicky, but also it showcases like this is possible today, and it's just mind-blowing when you think about all the endless opportunities here. And I have another one for you, which is me.
All right, so this is a test. This is going to explore the possibilities of live dubbing. I'm going to use a different suite of tools to try to take this snippet and turn it into many different languages just by uploading it and having my voice being synthesized into any of those languages. It also is going to make my lip move differently depending on what language my content is being dubbed into. पिछले हफ्ते हमने YouTube पर डिप्लॉय हो रही चीज़ों को देखा जिन्हें क्रिएटिव स्यूट पर काम कर रहे हैं. 이것은 풍경을 완전히 바꾸고 콘텐츠가 생성되고 소비되는 방식도 변경할 것입니다. De plus, pour la façon dont il est consommé, je ne pense pas nécessairement qu'il s'adresse aux personnes qui parlent déjà l'anglais comme langue seconde, mais qui veulent regarder du contenu dans leur langue maternelle. Mas acho que está indo atrás dos que não aprenderam uma segunda língua ou uma terceira língua e podem ter dificuldade em assistir criadores em inglês com legendas. 所以他们更希望他们最喜欢的创作者用他们的母语说话。这将是绝对en dit gaat de manier veranderen waarop we inhoud in feite voor altijd consumeren.
Linus, we lost your sound now. Now you're back in when you're back in English.
Hello, I'm here.
Yeah,
Hi.
you're back. Great.
Sorry for that.
Good to have you back.
So I was saying that, like, no, this is obviously like a little bit of a gimmick as well, but language is so important, and this is done with tools that are existing today, but there are already things happening right now that is giving us live translations, and what this will unlock is potentially maybe bigger than all of the other things combined. I'm very bullish on language. I'm very bullish on translation, and I'm really the reason why I am so extremely bullish on this is because the power of a network is like the nodes inside of the network. And we look at Sweden, for example, we're 10 million people or a little bit more. But if you're speaking Swedish, you can only converse with the 10 million other people. That's like your maximum reach, right? You can never kind of go outside of that. So by definition, the power of the network of Sweden is 10 million. And if we look at the world, we're 8 billion some people. And if we all of a sudden have the ability to natively speak to all of those individuals, not just people speaking English, or not just people speaking Chinese or Hindi or Arabic, because those are very big languages, but still, if you speak English, you can speak to about 20% of the population. So even with one more language, you can only kind of, the total reach of the network is around 1.8 billion people. So to really kind of leverage this, the ability to use these language models essentially to do language, which is like it's in the name even, I think we'll have one of the greatest impacts of all of this combined. And I don't think we're far off from having close to real-time translations. And I don't know, like personally, I have no idea what that kind of impact will have on society.
All right,
So another cool thing is like text to 3D, and why this matters is that we're moving into a new era of computing. So that might be a fad, it might not be a fad, but I think I and many others believe that the future of computing is not going to be done on screens like what we're doing now. 20 years from now will be very different. And I think we're seeing the inklings of that today with like spatial computing, augmented reality, and like the minification and shrinking of a lot of technology to kind of get there. And 3D will be paramount for that. And today, there's a shortage globally on 3D artists, and something that takes a lot of time to learn and to become good at. But the major companies in the world, like NVIDIA, they are working tirelessly on making larger models that are able to take text input and convert that into 3D models. So we're going to see like a whole kind of explosion in this field where anyone is going to be able to generate 3D assets and either use them directly or take them further. So now to the big kind of elephant in the room, and maybe the stuff that everyone has been using the past like year or so from like the release of ChatGPT, for example, large language models. So we heard a little bit of an intro from Olaf again on that, but LLMs in a nutshell, they're kind of these like massive data sets that there are basically three things inside of an LLM. It's the data, it's the way that it's kind of worked with, and it's the training. So the architecture, let's say it's the data and the architecture and the training. So in a nutshell, like a large language model is like a file on your computer with three things inside of it. There's some weights, there's like the output, the raw kind of like vector data, and that's it. And then we can like do inference on that. We can load that with a few lines of code, like 500 lines of code, and then we can load that into the computer and then talk to it. So it's not more magical than that, right? So if you have a folder on your computer, that's basically the same to like having an LLM, but just different files in the folder. But what's interesting is like what can be done with it. So the way that the compression works is it's quite lossy. It's not like when you zip a folder of images, you zip that, you get a small kind of compressed version of it, you send it over, and then the recipient opens it, and it's still the same images. You didn't lose stuff on the way. That would be a horrible kind of situation if you're sending zipped files. But with a large language model, it takes like an enormous amount of data. That's for comparison, like one gigabyte of data is roughly like 178 million words in text form. And GPT 3.5 was trained on 45 terabytes of data. So that's like, it's a shitload of data. And then 4 was trained on an order of magnitude more. So we're talking about like 450 terabytes of data. And the steps of the training basically goes from like a pre-training situation, which is like just reading a big swath of the internet, and then fine-tuning, which is essentially like what we're seeing with these kind of assistant modes where we have conversations and then the AI is trained on having a lot of conversations. And there's a bunch of models out there today. We have GPT-4 and 3.5, Turbo, all of those kind of versions. We have Claude, we have Bard, we have Perplexity, we have StableLM, Llama. There's a bunch of things that you can play around with, but they're all kind of large language models. And they have these kind of same things going for them. They are guessing. Basically, that's the whole thing that a transformer is doing. It's doing a lot of compression to kind of get to the state of understanding data. And then when it's unpacked that, when we do inference, when we ask it stuff, it's basically guessing the probability of the next word or the next token. And that is what we perceive as intelligence. But what's interesting with like these models, when they learn language, they learn and find like connections in everything. That's why they know how to code. That's why they learn base 64. So like if you look at GPT-4, it actually knows base 64. And for you, if you don't know what base 64 is, it's the underlying code that drives like how to make a PNG image or other images as well, or other files as well. So like if you open a PNG image in the text editor, it will just see a bunch of random letters in there, and that's base 64. But these models, they've been trained on so much data that they know what base 64 is. So they can speak base 64, essentially, which is very interesting. They're order regressive, which basically means they work like us in the sense that I don't know what I'm going to say in 2 minutes from now. So the exact word that's going to come out of my mouth 2 minutes down the road is like impossible for me to kind of know if I don't have something strictly pre-trained. And the same goes for a model. So when you're working with these things, if you ask it something and the output is not exactly what you had in mind, you can work with that because like the model now knows what it outputted and you can ask it to improve on itself. They come in different sizes, and this kind of, again, the sizes here are comparable to like their capabilities. So like if a model is really big, it's really capable and very general. If it's smaller, it can still be very capable, but it's less of a general model. And the smaller the model, the less kind of hardware you need to run it on. So a lot of what we're seeing now in kind of state of the art is like these open source models that are coming in at like fewer like parameters, but they're able to kind of outperform anything on the markets. So we have generalists and specialists. So you can have like a super big model like GPT-4 that is good at doing a lot of things, or you can have like Mistral 7 billion, which is like good at some things, but not necessarily everything. And there's like the 4 things that an LLM can do in a nutshell. Like obviously it can do a lot of things, but like if you break it down to what are the things that we can do, it's like translate, transform, generate, and classify. And we can do this in all possible combination, you know, in endless strings, or in endless loops, or in endless workflows. So if you think about it that way, then just like the things that you can build kind of becomes infinite almost. We're going to look at one more example. I know we're coming up on time here, but so one thing that, again, I'm really bullish about is this kind of notion of this omnipresent way of talking to everyone and anyone in the world at the same time. So it's just like a little bit of an illustration of the fact that like these models, they are like 100 languages fluent, right? They are able to converse easily between back and forth, find the nuance, and not just translate, but kind of transcreate between the languages. They can find kind of the way that we express something in Swedish and the way that that's expressed in, let's say, German or English, not just the direct translation. I think this is something that we are kind of more accustomed to in the world of like translating, because we're used to Google Translate, which is kind of shit compared to this. So not only can it like do the phonetics of it, as you can see here on the right, it can also do the actual script and the actual kind of like, you know, what the correct characters. You can just imagine this with voice as well becoming super powerful. So the one company that actually going all in on kind of the language part of things is Meta. And their division, Meta AI, they've released Seamless M4T, which is like this model that is capable of 200 languages. And it's multimodal in the way that you can do speech-to-speech, you can do speech-to-text, you can do text-to-speech and text-to-text and automatic speech recognition. So which means they're basically building this kind of behemoth of a thing that is able to take any kind of input in any language, whether it's written or in audio form, and can then crunch that and work with that in real time. So I think sometime this year or maybe next year, we'll see kind of the earbuds with kind of real time. You have one earbud in and someone else have the other one, and they're working seamlessly. Like it doesn't matter what language you're talking, basically. I think that's it. We don't need to watch this video because it's 4 minutes long and I want to go over. I want to keep some time for some questions and answers. So we're going to stop there, and I'm going to leave the floor for questions and answers. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Linus. I can't help myself thinking about my daughter. Her name is Ebba. She's 14 years old, and we sit at home and I say, you need to practice your English. You need to practice your Spanish. It is super important. That will open the world to you. What do you think about that?
No, I think that's still true. I think actually what's interesting with these things is that because it's now getting so open and so able to kind of go between languages, I am more inclined to learn a new language because I don't want to rely on the technology. I don't want to be like, oh, I need to have this tech to make myself clear. Like, for example, it's a very helpful tool for me to kind of like break in and become more fluent in Spanish, for example. And I'm able to kind of do queries instantly with a model that's like, tell me this, or help me with that, or help me with this. Like, I don't need a tutor. I don't need to pay like 200 Swedish or 25 euros an hour to get a private tutor. I can just use AI tools instead. So I think like the thirst for knowing more languages will probably go up as this technology kind of rolls out and becomes more available, because people just feel the kind of, oh, this is interesting. And that's actually, if you look at the people that are speaking more than 2 languages or above, the numbers kind of with each new language that you add to your repertoire, the numbers cut in half. So there's basically just like a percentage of the world's population that speak more than 4 languages. So it's like a really low amount. And if we can just bump that to like 5%, that's going to be a huge difference.
Wow, you saved my day. Thank you for that answer. Really, you saved my day. Great. Great presentation. Fire away.
Do you have any questions? Yeah, fire away in the chat. Go nuts. Like,
exactly.
let's keep this dynamic. Okay, so first question is in. What's your thoughts on Google DeepMind Gemini? So Google DeepMind Gemini, for those who don't know, it's Google and Google Brain and Google DeepMind. It's like their efforts to break into the world of large language models. They had a bit of I don't know, call it a marketing hiccup. Their video was kind of edited to make it look like it was real time with video and stuff. But what I think it's interesting with all of this happening in real time is that we're getting a lot of good competition from really like talented people and in big companies. And I think in the end, the consumer is going to be the massive winner here, because like the kind of fight for the big kind of like leadership here, that's going to make anyone on the other end kind of win, either it being companies utilizing the technology or individuals utilizing their technology for like their own gains. So consumer is going to win. Don't be shy.
Exactly. We have a quite quiet audience so far, but we will give us all some more minutes to think about what we want to ask or reflect upon. Always reflection is as valid and important to us all.
Yes, please go ahead. Like, how can we be 60 people and no one firing away questions? I need to drag them out of you. Come on.
We will. We will. Did you see all the reactions when you presented? Were you able to see them? Yeah.
Yeah, I saw a few. Yeah, yes, I did.
Good. So we are awake. I can assure you that, and especially when we listen to the guy singing Barbie, we were really awake. And also, of course, when you spoke all the different languages, we were really, really awake.
Thank you for the question. So what are you afraid of when it comes to the future of AI? So it's a very good question. It's a valid question. I would be naive to say that I'm like not thinking about what are the negatives with a lot of these technologies. But I do have a solid faith in humanity, regardless of the stuff that's going on in the world that's not good. There is still roughly 98% of us or 99% of us are doing quite good stuff. I would say like that the regulation is not keeping up, perhaps, would be one of my biggest fears, that the wrong people are sitting in the rooms making the rules for technology that they don't have really any understanding about. So I'm a big kind of proponent of allowing the kind of think tanks and the industry people to kind of have a say and maybe push harder on regulatory kind of like work. The EU Act that came to fruition the other day is a big joke. I haven't read all 900 pages, but I've read enough to be kind of like, okay, they are regulating the wrong pieces, and they're regulating like 50% of what needs regulation. And the things are moving so fast that we're going to hit a point where this comes into action and it's already outdated. Okay, we have some good more questions. How do you career-proof yourself in an AI world? I think be very playful, like adapt, like have this mindset of being like a 5-year-old at the playground and just go in, soak up as much as you possibly can. Like if you've been afraid of learning new things in your career up until this point, I would say try to shake that completely off and don't be afraid of doing wrong. Like don't be afraid of just throwing yourself out there. Just go completely like free fall into this, and with a mindset of like being a kid. Just that is my number one advice. Play as much as you possibly can. If you have an hour every week, if you have 2 hours every week, just use the tools and look up people online that are writing about it and do some research. There are plenty of good stuff out there.
So now, great to see all the great questions. Do you want me to read them, Linus, or do you prefer to just pick one?
Let me see. We'll just try to see if many we can take. We can take as many as possible. So Lasse was asking, what do you think about the humane AI pin? I think that's exactly what's going to happen. So we're going to get more technology like that. I was going to wave like something that looks like the AI pin here. But I think technology in a way will go away. Like we'll move away from having this to kind of be more open. I don't necessarily think the humane's take on it is the right take, but I do think that we're going to go in that direction. Hasse is asking about using LLMs in his work as engineering. I would say like, yes, like you do that. And I think if you're afraid, then start using it for things that maybe not going to go straight into production or that you're not going to put in a production environment. Use it to kind of get your feet warm. And there are plenty of tools like either you can use Copilot or you can use Cursor.so, which is like another IDE that works really well. And I think just learning how to work as an engineer with these tools is going to help you a lot, because like this space is moving so fast that like you see junior engineers entering now that just leverage these tools and they become really, really fluent in a lot of things really quickly. And they're going to need guidance from more senior developers. And then those senior developers need to know how to use the tools. So just dive head in, like just not be afraid. Pieta has a good question as well. It's a bit tricky one. The ethics and the morale, like this is again, I might not be the right person here to answer this question. I do think that if you act with morals and ethics that you would act with as a normal person doing normal stuff in the normal world, you have nothing to fear, because if you're guided by some kind of principles there, then I'd be surprised if you're doing wrong stuff. But on a higher level, these companies that are providing these services, they need to have guidance. They need to have like a consensus from society, like with everything else. What are the norms? What do we accept? What do we not accept? Maybe it's time to rewrite the way copyright works. Maybe it's time to rewrite certain things, because these were rules that came into place when technology was not there. So that's why the legal system is so difficult, but also needed in this scenario, but it needs to move much faster. So the clear end, I think for me, the answer is we need rules to maybe be rewritten, but we also need to have like some sort of from the ground up and from the top down kind of agreement on how to do certain things. If that makes sense.
There is also a question further up. How do you career-proof yourself in an AI world, from Raid?
Yeah, I think I answered that. So I think if you want to career-proof yourself, again, it's like go out there and just try as much as possible. Like if you have a specific job, try to figure out and try to like learn by Googling around or like talking to peers about what are you seeing, what's happening with my job, what's happening with my career that these tools are impacting, and then learn to use those tools. So instead of being kind of pushed out by other people that are learning to kind of leverage what's out there to augment themselves, try to be the person that does that. Try to be the person that figures out like, oh, if I do this and combine it with that, all of a sudden I have an edge over others. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you're competing, but it means that you're figuring out a way to stay relevant. And this applies to everyone. It applies to kind of all categories. So we're kind of still in the early days. So if you're even considering this now, it means that you have a competitive edge over many others, because like this is going to take a bit of time. But once the momentum kicks in, probably sometime 2024, 2025, early 2025, then it's going to be game over for everyone that's kind of left behind. It's just going to be really tricky to keep up.
Any idea how to combine AI and game development for content creation purposes?
Yeah, I think that's there are some really interesting tools. I would say like Leonardo.ai is a great tool, that especially if you're a game developer. And I think also like working with LLMs, working with these generative tools that are out there combined gives you the ability to kind of do things that maybe are outside of your current day-to-day work. Like you can experiment with things that you maybe before were not possible, were able to do, which is also interesting. I guess, again, the key thing for me with all these things that are popping up is that the area for serendipity, like the surface area that we have for each other to kind of like meet halfway, all of a sudden is a lot greater. Here we go, a lot greater than what it was before, because all of a sudden I can do things that are outside of reach for me and my capabilities before this, but I can come with input and I can do things that now I couldn't do before, which means that I can start talking to other people that I could not talk to before. So the ability to kind of like spread that surface area makes for more kind of potential output in the end. Jonas Holmqvist, thank you. Is it the beard that makes me resemble Jack Dorsey? I think apart from, so the question is, what are you most looking forward to regarding AI in the coming year? Apart from breaking down barriers of communication, I think the fact that we can have a lot more fun with software. Like software up to this date has been very kind of like binary driven. You need to learn something and it needs to be like, oh, you know, I learn this specific thing and it's like you have to touch these knobs in a specific order and then something happens. Whereas like the suite of tools that are coming out now are way more natural. They're often powered by natural language input, or they're powered by a sense of magic, if that makes sense, right? We haven't had software that's been magical before. And if we had software that was magical, it took 10,000 hours of becoming a professional at it to feel the magic. And now it's like, okay, you can spend a few hours with a tool, and then all of a sudden you're able to create all sorts of interesting things that seems and feels like at many times like magic. Okay, and then the final question maybe, what's up Sweden? How do I get endless credits so I can use all of the tools out there? You email these companies and you just go, hey, Linus sent me, can you give me a free access? And that's good for me, because then they will tell me like, you're crazy, you're giving us all these people asking for free credits, and then I'm on their radar and I can potentially give you free credits. So that's one way to do it. All right, thank you for all the questions. This turned out great.
It did. It really did. Thank you all. Great questions. Thank you, Superstar Linus. Thank you, Superstar Olof. Thank you, Rebecca, sitting next to me. You cannot see her, but she's waving now. Thank you, Adriana, for hosting this event. I hope to see you next time at upTech. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye-bye.